In X-Men 97 Season 1, we went out with a bang. But was Season 2 just as explosive? Or did we fizzle out? Welcome back, everyone. We're here today to talk about X-Men 97 Season 2, the season finale. We are talking about Episode 9, Survival of the Fittest. So when it comes to this finale, how did we do? We're going to be talking about that in this video. But before we get into my thoughts, because I have a lot of thoughts about this finale, I have a question for you. How did you feel about the finale? I want to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. Let me know every little thought that's in your mind, every detail that you picked up upon, that you have an opinion on. Tell me about that down in those comments. I'll see you down there. And maybe I will also even see some of your comments featured in my next video where I'll do a full review of the season, because even when it comes to this full season, there really is a lot to talk about. Let's continue on though with the finale here, because that's what we're here to talk about in this video. And I want to start off by asking the question, was this episode a hand of God moment? Was it, like we say in theater, a deus ex machina, the machine of God coming in and just fixing everything for everybody? Yes, it kind of was. But does that make sense for this season? I think when you consider that we have Celestials and we have Apocalypse, and Apocalypse does have that connection, we have Eson here, I think that all makes sense. So I do think it going that way is fine. And even when you consider Eson's motivations here, because it is a bit of a quick turn to saying Apocalypse is my guy through and through, and then Rogue coming in and saying, I'm here for love, and Eson all of a sudden deciding, you know what? All right, I'm kind of cool with it. I want to see what happens. That does make sense if you think about the fact that Eson is all about survival. I feel like Eson being a Celestial, Celestials love to fly around in outer space. They're these cosmic god entities who love experimenting on other worlds and just seeing, what'll happen. It makes sense that he would be like, you know what? I'm intrigued. I kind of want to know what's going to go down. So that all made sense to me in terms of the reason why Eson would make that deal with Rogue and give her that level of power. Because Eson wants to see who's going to win here. Will it be Apocalypse? Am I right? Or is there something in this idea of loving someone so deeply that you're willing to put them above yourself? Maybe that is the way that beings evolve. Let's find out. Rogue sacrificing herself also makes a lot of sense in terms of this ending of the show. I thought that this was absolutely heartbreaking when Rogue was willing to make that deal, but that is what she would do. Of course, Rogue is willing to give up everything for Gambit, just as Gambit was willing to give up everything for Rogue. And that is just the kind of relationship that these two have. Now, would it have been heartbreaking if that's the only way that that went down, and in order for us to keep Gambit, we lost Rogue? Yeah, I would have been devastated if that happened. So I'm very glad that we found another way to work it all out. And of course, that way is with a surprise twist, Nightcrawler sacrificing himself for his sister so that she can be with Gambit and be happy. And I actually thought that was so beautiful. And I think it also makes so much sense when you consider how big of a character Nightcrawler has been this season. And I was saying when I did my episode 7 review, how important I thought that episode was this season. I said, this is like one of the most important episodes that we have. It is a huge character defining episode for Kurt. It shows you not just who he is as a mutant in terms of his power set, in terms of what he's capable of as a hero physically, but it's also showing you morally what kind of character he is, what his philosophies and his beliefs on the world are, on people are, and the power of his faith. And so to have the power of his faith to be the thing that kind of saves the day for everyone here, I thought that was really beautiful. I'm gonna miss Kurt. Oh my goodness. I can't believe we had to lose him, but that is exactly what Kurt would do. And we're gonna talk a little bit more about finishing on those words, because I think they are really powerful, especially in what they mean for the whole season. But we'll talk about that a little bit more, because we're going to come back to the end in a moment. And if you want to see how moved I was in this finale, because it moved me many times, You can also check out my full reactions, which are available on Patreon. We also have reactions available here for members. The full reactions, though, are up on Patreon at patreon.com/c/vampx13. VAMPX13. I want to talk about some action first. When it comes to the fights, woo, there was a lot going on. And I have been saying this season, we have so many characters. How do we make everyone feel important in this season? And I will say, in the finale, some of these characters that have been more on the sidelines got a little bit more added to their plate. They got a little bit more time to shine, which I liked. Strong Guy got some cool moments, mashing it up with Bishop. We got to see Multiple Man a little bit more in action when it comes to the X Factor. Sadly, Wolfsbane still not getting very much to do, so sad for the Wolfsbane fans out there. But we did get a little bit more, at least, from X Factor. In terms of X-Force, we also saw a little bit more action with Psylocke and with Archangel, mashing it up with Morph and Wolverine. Sadly, the captions spoiled for me the reveal that Wolverine was Morph when they said, Morph is Wolverine, says this thing. But yeah, sad news for any of us that are watching with the captions on, I guess. We just have to deal with the fact that that is revealed right away. Still, though, getting to see these characters have a little bit more, whether it comes to the X Factor members or the X-Force members, I thought that was neat. We also get Siren here in X Factor. She's taking the place of Polaris. And apparently in the X-Men 97 comics, there's a little bit more to her story. I think I might go back and read the X-Men 97 comics for this season and do a video on that. I even do think that some of the stuff that I've been hearing that's featured in there could have been in the show and could have been episodes, but we're going to talk about the pacing of this a lot more in the full season review. And yeah, I have some thoughts about just how much we even got even within this finale. Because while we're getting all these fights, I mean, we have Havoc versus Jubilee, and I've loved seeing Jubilee continue to evolve here. We also get a callback to an earlier time in this season and in season 1 when she does her little firework kind of boomerang disc that she throws, and she uses that to get rid of the heat-seeking missile. I loved seeing her and Havoc kind of fight it out in jets. I thought that was neat. And I love that Havoc has actually been a recurring presence in season 2. I hope we get more Havoc because he is one of the most interesting characters, I think, in X-Men comics. A character who never really wanted to be a hero, but kind of ends up just kind of getting forced into it through just recurring events where he ends up in these places. And then he has really no choice but to become a hero in the end. So hopefully we get more of him because I like what we're doing with him. I like that he was an antagonist, but it never felt like he was a jerk about it. It always felt like Havoc thought that he is doing the best thing possible, but it doesn't mean that he thinks his opponents are bad people. He can see the potential even in them, and that was something that I liked that we did with this character. So yeah, hopefully more Alex Summers in season 3, fingers crossed. Multiple Man was a character that I thought was a bit surprising in terms of the sound of that character. By the way, I loved, like I said, getting to see him featured here more. I'm a big Jamie Madrox fan in the comics, and I've read quite a bit of Multiple Man. But for me, I always picture his voice as being like a bit nasally, a little bit higher, and he's a little smarmy, he's a little confident, he's kind of a funny guy, and that's how I always imagined his voice sounding. So to hear him sound more gruff in this show kind of threw me for a loop. And we may have already heard his voice before in 97 or the animated series, so maybe I'm just forgetting that that was the sound because I've read so many comics like with him in it in between, and I've developed my own inner voice in my mind. But that was interesting. I don't know. What do you guys think of Jamie's voice in this? Do you like it? Does it work with your headcanon? Tell me in the comments. I loved also seeing Cable being forced to kind of fight against his parents here and their goals clashing. I thought that was really interesting considering that we've been building up this strong family unit from season 1 into season 2. So to see them have to fight against one another, that was a cool and interesting twist. I do wish that we maybe gave it a little bit more fire underneath. I thought maybe at one moment it was going to become a little bit more personal. After all, Cable has had to grow up without his parents. And I thought maybe when they were telling him, you know, you got to trust us, son, you got to do what we're saying here because we're in the right and you're in the wrong. I really thought that he might say, you know what? I'm kind of tired of you guys telling me what to do. You come into my life and you try to tell me who I am. And to be honest, you haven't really been here for a lot of it. It could have been a good opportunity to give him a little dig. But I guess Cable does know that his parents have only done what they had to do. And so we didn't want to break up the family unit too bad. Part of me thought because it wasn't getting personal, maybe this was Strife, but still waiting on that Strife reveal. Still waiting to see. Maybe we'll get some Strife in season 3. I don't know. A girl can dream. Just give me that evil clone. I don't ask for much. Give me all the clones. Where's Joseph at? I also thought it was a weird choice to have Gambit just left in the med bay without any kind of failsafe. I understand we're putting all of our stock here in Rogue, Beast, and Nightcrawler saving the day. But if they happen to not be able to come back before Gambit goes full celestial level, like off the charts, turning into Gampocalypse, then maybe it would have been nice to have some restraints on that guy or something. I can't believe they just had him laying there. I also understand that all of these fires are going off and X-Corp doesn't have a lot of time to respond. They just have to rush off and fight everyone now. And I don't think that they expected that X-Factor and X-Force with Cable taking down their shields would be what they were dealing with today. So I understand, but it is surprising that as they all rushed off, they didn't think, should we try to do something to withhold this person in case they turn into Apocalypse? Should we? And speaking of Gambit turning into Apocalypse, I will say I think the ending of this finale was a little bit abrupt. We go from Gambit into Gampocalypse, and then that final fight scene is about 3 minutes. And when you compare that to the season 1 finale and the fight against Bastion, which I think was about 6 or 7 minutes long, that is double the amount of time that this final fight was. And my other issue is when Gampocalypse comes in, what does this character really do? Are we doing anything fun that's a mashup of like Gambit and Apocalypse's powers? Are we being creative with how we use the power sets? Not exactly. And even when Rogue comes in, I love to see her come in and save the day and save Gambit because I thought that was beautiful. And I think it makes sense that now that she has this celestial boost, her power set would allow her to take Apocalypse out of Gambit just by touching his cheek. All of that was lovely. However, are we getting to be creative with these power sets? Are we doing something that's new and exciting and interesting and kind of makes you think, oh, wow, I never thought about the power set in that way, but that's neat. Not exactly. And that's been a little bit of an issue with me, I think, throughout season 2, where I feel like season 1 was a lot more specific in terms of the way it showcased power sets, and it was a little bit more creative in the writing of seeing unique ways that characters could use their abilities and even team up with each other. I also feel like in this finale, we didn't have as much detail, not just when it came to the power set, but also when it came to some of the animation. Some of the animation feels a little stiff. There's a lot of PNGs flying around. Now, granted, not all of the animation in the episode is that. They pick and choose their moments. But just when you compare it to the season 1 finale, if you go back and watch, which I did watch after this, you'll see what I'm talking about. And we'll talk about more the comparison of season 1 to season 2 in my full season review and talking about, you know, some of the notes that I have for this season, some of the things that I loved, but some of the things that I'd love to see improved upon even more as we head towards season 3. But overall, I did feel it was a little bit rushed. I feel like we kind of sprinted to the ending here, and I feel that way for this episode and a little bit for the previous episode as well. The pacing just feels kind of different, especially when you compare it with the beginning of the season. Now, granted, I feel conflicted here because I think giving Nightcrawler the final say, giving him those last words where he says, "Because I have faith," I thought that was a beautiful way to sum up the season and really, for me, allowed me to open up all of my eyes to what the themes have been about. I think it really ties together season 2 in a nice way. So I loved that. I just wish that it wasn't so rushed to get to that moment. Overall, those are my thoughts on the finale. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to watch this video. I'll see you down in the comments below, and hopefully I will see you in my full season review. Stay tuned for that. And until next time, friends, as always, you stay nerdy. Bye! And if you love hearing me yap about X-Men, you can hear more of that by clicking right over here.